Dad, we look like twins.
I know, right?
Like, seriously.
We got some serious DNA going on here.
If you put your glasses on, it's over.
Okay, you sure? All right, so
How's this?
we're just gonna dive.
Oh no! Yeah. Okay. Twinsies.
Okay.
You guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
Huh?
I can hear.
That's
you.
not fair that you can see everybody and I can't see everybody. That is not fair.
I can only see you, Dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's,
So wait, who are we speaking to in the radio station at Rainier Avenue?
So my name is K-Cee Deeva.
Hi,
And
K-Cee Deeva.
hello. And I'm going to be interviewing you guys this evening. And
okay.
now it's just you again on the screen, Selina.
Dad. Oh, here you go.
There he is.
Here.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead
Okay.
and we're just going to dive in. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and start the show, and then I'll ask you some questions, and we'll have a conversation. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, so good evening out there in Radio Land. This is K-Cee Deeva, and you are tuned in to Music and Life on RainierAvenueRadio.World. We have a very special show for you tonight. Now, the cool thing about Music and Life is that this show gives you an in-depth look into the careers of national artists that you're familiar with, that you're fans of. We talk about their lives, their music, and much more that they're doing. Our guest tonight, we have a very special duo joining me tonight, a father and daughter. The father is an 8-time Grammy nominee whose versatile music style has made him one of the top saxophonists in the jazz game for over 30 years. Throughout his career, he's worked with some of the best in the business, from Anita Baker and Ray Parker Jr. to Whitney Houston and the Winans as well. His daughter is also a legend in her own right, who has worked with Whitney Houston also. Tina Marie, the list goes on and on for both of them. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about that later. Gerald has a new project out of 30 years of compilation of all of his hits that you're probably familiar with. He and Selina are going to be as Ali this week, Thursday through Sunday, the 25th through the 28th, for 6 shows. And I'd like to welcome Mr. Gerald Albright and Selina Albright to Music and Life. Hello there.
Hi.
Thank you both.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining me. It's so exciting to have you both coming to town and coming on the show tonight. I know you're both super busy, so we really do appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
We're just
No
gonna
problem.
dive
I'm happy
on,
to be here.
we're just going to dive on in here. Now, let me ask you this. Have both of you been to Seattle before?
Anytime. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you're familiar with the little bit of coldness that we have right now this time of year. Dress warm.
We checked the weather yesterday to see what was going on for the rest of the week.
Right. Great. All right. So, Gerald, I'm just going to start with you. Tell us about your latest project, 30.
Well, as you mentioned before, it's an anniversary CD celebrating 30 years of being in the record business. I started in 1987 on Atlantic Records, and I'm 19 albums in, and very proud of that whole ride between 87 and now. And it's doing very well. It was released May 18th of this year, and we had so far 2 top 10 charting singles, and the record is selling well. And it's a compilation of some of my favorites and hopefully some of my fans' favorites. And we did brand new arrangements of all of these songs, and Selina is singing like a bird on some of the stuff. So we're very proud of this project.
Thanks, Ed.
Oh, I love it. Now, how long has this project been in the works?
Well, I started about a year prior to its release. I like to really take my time with projects because, we're always juggling going on the road versus being in the studio and being a husband, father, and all the many hats that I wear on a daily basis. So I've never been one of those rush guys that, run in the studio and crank out 10 tunes. I kind of let it flow as the creativity introduces itself to me. And so it took about a year.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned your daughter, Selina, being one of the vocalists on there. Who else did you work with on this project?
Well, I approached it more for the musicianship versus the marquee value of, inviting a lot of other artists on it. It was really about the music. And that's what really transcends versus the names that are attached to the project. So I honestly used the musicians who were some of my favorites in my road band to help me put this together. Namely Chris, we call him Big Dog, but Chris Big Dog Davis, who helped to arrange the project for me. All of the songs are originals of mine that I've, some are a decade old, a couple of decades old. We have Corey Baker on bass, and I'm sharing the lion's share of it on bass guitar. I'm doing most of the bass tracks, but Corey is featured on a couple of tunes. Great producer here in the Denver area. His name is J-Rob. That's his nickname, James Roberson. He's primarily, like Corey Baker, a one-man band. They play keys and drums and sing and produce and write and the whole thing. And of course, Selina was on it. And then Rick Watford, who is one of my favorite guitar players from Atlanta, Georgia. And that's pretty much it. There was only maybe 6 or 7 people involved in this whole thing, inclusive of Bob Horn, who mixed it. And I recorded a lot of the stuff in my home studio. So it's a small but mighty group, and I'm very proud of them.
Right on, right on. Small but mighty group. I love that. Now, Selina, I'm curious. At what age did you realize you wanted to follow in your dad's footsteps and jump into the music game?
Ooh, this literally just happened about 10 years ago. Between 10 and 12 years ago, I decided to go completely as a solo artist. So this is pretty new for me, relatively speaking. You hear about a lot of artists coming out who, you just see them when they're huge and you don't see the story that led up to it or the albums that they came out with way before. So my story actually spans 20 years professionally, but I just realized I wanted to be a solo artist about 10 years ago.
Wow. Now you're a songwriter.
Dad, do you remember when I came to you?
There's a story that goes along with this. I have to tell this. It's a brief story. So I'm in Dallas, Texas. I'm doing a show there. And my daughter happened to be visiting friends there at the same time. And she called me out of the blue one afternoon and said, Dad, I'd like to come over to the hotel and talk to you about something. And I said, okay. And, she sounded like real focused, real serious about it. I was like, okay, come on over. And so shortly thereafter, I get a knock at the door. There's my daughter. She has a notepad in her hand, and she's looking very studious and serious and kind of that take charge attitude, and she comes and sits on the couch and, she says to me, long story short, she said, Dad, I've been thinking about it and I want to dive into the music industry, the music field 100%. And I said, that's all I need to hear. Let's go to work. And that's when we started writing and producing some stuff together. And then, now she's flourished into Selina Albright, the artist, the entrepreneur with her own record company and everything. So we're very proud of her.
That is a very awesome story. So she surprised you in a way. You had no idea what was coming.
No, I didn't.
We didn't know.
I didn't know.
Well, it was abrupt for me as well, because I just had this moment of epiphany while I happened to be with my friends in Dallas. It's funny, it comes full circle because I live in Dallas now where it all started. So Just came right back around again. But I was in a mall somewhere in Dallas. I still have not found this mall again. And it had a fudge shop. And while they package your fudge for you, they sing Motown songs, just oldies but goodies, right? And they started singing My Girl because my friend said, hey, Selina sings. And so they kind of said, okay, what do you want to sing with us? And we did My Girl, but they did it in a key that forced me to use my falsetto. When I started singing my part, people started coming from other parts of the mall to hear who was singing. And I was like, I need to stop playing around. I'm playing too much. Let me just go ahead and pursue what I've known has been, a serious passion of mine for many years now. And just become a solo artist like I've always supposed to be. I think I always was supposed to be.
You're looking at a young lady that, let's say at 9 or 10 years old, maybe even younger, was going around the house singing Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston songs and singing them in tune, matching all the inflections of Whitney and Mariah.
Wow.
And so much so that in I believe it was 1998, I did my last record for Atlantic Records, and I had Selena sing background. You were about 16 then, right?
I was 16. That was Live to Love.
Live to Love. That was a Live to Love project.
Very first song.
Selena sung all the backgrounds on that project, and it was a young sounding Selena, but very much in tune. And she had a great work ethic when she came into the studio. She was prepared. And, you know, for a dad who has been hearing her sing around the house, you know, I was like, okay, she's ready. She's ready. But we were never parents who would pressure our kids into saying, okay, you're going to do this. You know, we kind of stayed in the outer perimeter and allowed them to kind of just form their own path. And so when she came to the hotel that day, it was a beautiful day for me to know that she was going to dive into the music field. So it's all good. I'm a proud dad.
What an awesome story. I love that. Hey, if you're just tuning in or just checking us out on Facebook, you're listening to Music and Life on RainierAvenueRadio.World. I'm K-Cee Deeva, and I had the pleasure of chatting with Mr. Gerald Albright and his daughter, Miss Selina Albright, two legends in the music business, and they're going to be in town, Jazz Alley, this coming week. And we're very excited, the 25th through the 28th. So 4 days. You have 4 days. And I think I read 6 shows. So you have some time to get some tickets and check them out. Now, Selena, just like your dad, you know, you worked with some heavy hitters, Whitney Houston, Ella Fitzgerald, Dinah Washington, you know, Layla Hathaway. Did they also influence your style of music as far as?
Well, actually, I want to make a correction. I didn't work with Whitney Houston. I've shared the stage with Layla Hathaway in a jam session at some point, and then in a couple of interviews. But these are people, those are all the people that inspired me. Ella Fitzgerald, I wish I could have met her when she was alive. Dinah Washington too. They really did inspire me. They really, really did. I wish I could have gotten to work with them.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I worked with Whitney for a number of years, and Selena had come to a few rehearsals at a very young age and got a chance to meet Whitney, and so it was a nice introduction and a nice what can I say? Just a nice spark for Selena in terms of seeing a global icon do her thing in rehearsals, and you know, doing what she loves to do, which is sing. So. But it was real interesting. You know, most kids would, you know, get real excited about meeting an icon like that, and Selena was just like, "Oh, nice to meet you."
Well, I was kind of a little bit floored, though. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm meeting Whitney Houston," and I didn't really know what to do, so I didn't like scream or anything. I was like, "Hi, I love your work," and it was I don't know. I was a shy kid, so me meeting her for the first time and seeing her as herself. I mean, she had no makeup on.
Right.
Her hair was back in like a bandana or something. And she was in regular clothes. So I didn't even know it was her at first because her back was to us. So when she finally turned around, I was like, oh my gosh, that's her. Okay, let me just play it cool real quick, because she's been one of my favorites for years and years. I've been singing her music. But she was amazing to me. Amazing to me. Shaka Khan was amazing to meet. She's a firecracker. I love her.
I've heard that about her. I would love to meet her one day. I've heard that about her. So, Gerald, I'm asking you the same question. Who were some of your inspirations growing up? Now, I read that you played piano initially at a very early age and kind of got bored with that, and you play bass, obviously. How did you finally decide that, you know, bass, saxophone was your thing?
Well, I started playing piano when I was about 8 years old, and you know, it was kind of a mandate from my parents. You know, at that age, you know, you had to learn some kind of musical instrument, whatever. I guess that was kind of the default instrument for most Black families growing up. And George Turpo, God rest his soul, was my very first music teacher. He was also the choir director at our church that I grew up in, Beulah Baptist Church. And but he did a lot of moonlighting as a private teacher, and he taught me piano, which I was never prepared for my lessons from week to week because I wasn't interested in it. So And, I'd look out the window while I was, sitting at the piano, and I see my buddies playing baseball and football in the neighborhood. And I'm like, I want to do that, And so he had a talk with my parents and said, Gerald's really not interested in piano. Let's try something else. And he had this old saxophone. It was a Silver King saxophone in his garage that he used to play in the Army years prior. And so he brought that the following week to the next lesson, and unannounced, I thought I was doing piano. And he said, well, we're going to do something different today. And he opened up this case, and, it smelled of mold, and it had been sitting in the corner. It had very interesting smells with that purple. I'm looking at the purple velvet in this case and this silver horn. And it immediately struck me as like being a toy. You could press the keys, you could blow through it, and make a sound. It was a lot more interesting to me than piano. And so he put the horn together for me, and he said, well, lick this reed. I'm saying, lick the reed? Yeah, lick the reed. You have to moisten the reed. And so I licked the reed, and then we put it on the mouthpiece, and I made my first squeak. And long story short, I've been squeaking for the past 4 or 5 decades.
I'm sure a lot of people listening out there are glad you made that choice.
Yeah, I owe that particular initial direction of saxophone to George Turpo. And I was inclined to play it. I was in concert band and in my elementary school, and then it went from there, junior high, high school, college, and then, doing like a work for hire street type of thing after I graduated. I just wanted to play. So I would play in clubs and go on the road with different artists, and it was fun for me. It was a lot of fun for me.
That's great. I read something interesting in your bio. You said early on in your career, Gerald, that, a lot of record labels would tell you, be funky, but not too funky. And I guess that's kind of common where, record labels want you to have a certain sound or, play how they want you to play. What advice would you give someone up and coming, how to manage both, how to give the label what they want, but also keep your uniqueness, because you've managed to do that over the years.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate you saying it. It wasn't a constant thing in terms of having the feeling of executives from the record company looking over your shoulder and saying, okay, that's too funky. Or it was just kind of like snapshots in my life where it happened. And it really affected me because, once the creative juices start flowing, you don't want to be harnessed by other people trying to limit what you do. But what's fortunate now is that independent record companies are a lot more prevalent these days, as opposed to back in the day where we were part of the major record labels. So now the independent artist is the executive, and he's doing his or her own music. So it's total autonomy in terms of putting creativity into a project that you feel good about. There's no limitations. And I'm proud to be an independent artist. I started 3 or 4 years ago with my own record company, and it's doing very well. And it's just nice to just say, okay, I want to do a record now. I want to release it on this date. I'm going to take my time with it, and I'm going to put on it what I'd like to have on it and what I think my fan base would love to hear me play. So there's no limitations. And when I listen to the records under my indie label versus the ones prior to that under the major record companies, I'm hearing a freedom in the indie records that I really didn't hear back then. It was really about, just remembering, okay, the executives, they're writing the checks, they're giving you the record budget. So, they got to have some kind of say-so in the creative, process. So, I'm in a good place right now, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of Selina too, who has her own label, that, just to be able to sit down at the piano or a sax or a bass and just say, okay, I'm going to do this, and nobody has anything to say about it.
Amen.
That's good.
I love it.
Being your own boss.
I've never been with a record label before, and I love being an independent artist. You own your masters. You can do whatever you want with your music. You can license it out if you want to. Right. When other people cover your music, you own it. So then you get a royalty check in the mail. It's
That's
really,
always
really
nice.
cool. It's really, really cool.
And so
Yeah.
you think that is that the way the music business is really going, where more and more artists are doing like yourselves and owning their own labels and doing their own thing?
Yeah, but what it does take though, and I've had talks with different artists, name artists that we all know that I will not mention, but I would approach them and say, well, you've been in the business for a long time and you've leveraged or you've gathered quite a fan base over those years. And why don't you leverage your audience and just, start your own label? Some people are cut out for that. They have a take charge personality. Other people feel comfortable just kind of being in the background, just playing their instrument and letting other people do for them. I'm self-managed. I have my own record company. I'm pretty much hands-on on every facet of my career now. A lot of people don't like doing that. They like to designate others to make that happen. So I found that really interesting. But I mean, that's just the way it is. It's kind of a personal thing. It's a subjective thing. But when you really realize it, major record labels are using the same internet that independent artists are using to promote now. It's not like the old days where we used to run around to all radio stations and do a promo tour. We would do videos that would be on BET or VH1 or some of those other cable stations. It's more consolidated now to YouTube, FaceTime, Instagram, whatever. And so they're using the same tools that we're using as independent artists. So why not be an independent artist, and just have a good digital person in your loop, a good marketing person in your loop that can take your project from point A to point B. And that doesn't have to be a record company. That could be one guy or gal who is just proficient at creatively getting your project to the marketplace in a very effective way.
Wow, that's some great advice for anyone out there that's thinking about getting into the music business. You're learning a lot tonight. This is Music in Life. I'm K-Cee Deeva, and this is RainierAvenueRadio.World. I am talking with Mr. Gerald Albright and Miss Selina Albright, who will be in town this week, the 25th through the 28th at Dimitriou's Jazz Alley. 6 shows, so you have a lot of chances to get some tickets. So Selina, I want to ask you, so you've performed at different venues, smaller venues, larger venues, different cities. Any favorite places that you have, that you've been?
There's one right in Seattle. I'm not remembering what it's called, but it's a big opera house with huge organ pipes in it, and everything is covered in wood. Do you remember where this is? And outside it just looks like a whole bunch of glass. I loved that place. I performed there with David Benoit for the Charlie Brown Christmas tour, and this was back in 2013 or 14, I want to say.
Was it been a while?
It's been a while.
Okay, I'm thinking.
I love that place. I love. I like playing in Denver at this little place called the Soiled Dove. Oh. It's a really cool spot, and they have good food, and they will feed you really well after you're done with your show. And food is very important to me. I even wrote a song about it. It's called Eat Something.
Yes,
and
yes,
so
I heard that word.
Usually the venues I tend to like are the ones either with a lot of history behind it, or they have really, really good food. I loved playing the Blues Alley as well. Really loved playing the Jazz Alley. I was there in 2013 with Brian Culbertson. And that was my first time performing. And it was actually the last time I was there. So I'm really excited to come back this weekend. And it's my birthday weekend. So I get to play at one of my favorite places on my birthday weekend. I think that's pretty cool.
Right on. Well, happy birthday. I hope you. Now, will you guys have a chance to do anything fun while you're here besides just a little playtime?
We're gonna eat.
Yeah, absolutely. and things are evolving as I have conversations with Selina and my wife Glennis. Honestly, they are the ones that usually put the stuff together. Yeah. And us husbands just kind of say, okay, that's what we're doing.
And it's always fun though, right?
It's always fun. I love Pike's Place. I'm a big seafood guy, and I just like hanging out there and just seeing all the different shops and just I like to people watch. and the whole field. It's just a nice hangout. But like Selena, one of my favorite places to play is Jazz Alley. It's a great crowd there. They're very supportive of not only the show, but they buy a lot of CDs. They want to take the CDs home, and so they're across the board just very supportive and have wonderful things to say whenever we perform there. The staff at Jazz Alley is impeccable, from management on down to the waitresses. I mean, everything is just a comfort zone for us, and they have good food there too. Actually,
they really do.
So
the setup backstage is pretty nice.
That's
pretty
good.
nice.
Well, I'm glad
But
to hear
there's
that.
some people who are in tickets to all 6 of the shows, and they've been posting about how excited they are that we're coming back together to Seattle this weekend. So, yeah, we love Seattle.
Yeah,
we love Seattle.
And see, my only thing is, and I told you in the beginning of the interview that I was checking the weather because I have never really golfed in Seattle.
Oh God.
I'm a huge golfer. So I was seeing that this week, it's part rain on certain days and then not rain, but cloudy and cold. And, and I'm like, wow, it would be nice to just even play 9 holes there. I know just based on the beauty of the city, the golf course have to be just impeccable and pristine. So hopefully one day, that's part of my bucket list is to play golf in Seattle.
That's funny you say that, Gerald, because I when I was doing my research, I saw you did a Twitter post where you were golfing somewhere, and I have one of my questions is actually, are you gonna have some time to golf here while you're in Seattle? Because I saw that you like to do that. And we have some great courses.
Yeah. Well, I have the time. It's just the weather. I'm not one that likes to golf in rain, or golf in the cold. I was born and raised in sunny Southern California. So, my rule. Now, I will say, though, that here in Colorado, where, like Seattle, it can get cold, my rule of thumb is 50 degrees or higher for going out and playing. If it's below 50, you won't see me on the first tee. But 50 and above, I would love to play.
I love it. Well, unfortunately, that went by so fast. We've run out of time, but I've had a great time talking with you both. And I'm excited to come and see the show. I hope you'll have a great time while in Seattle. And I wish you a very happy birthday, Selina. So have fun celebrating while you're in town. And I'm definitely looking forward. So, hey, you've been listening to Music in Life on RainierAvenueRadio.World. My guests have been the legendary saxophonist, Mr. Gerald Albright, along with his daughter, songstress and songwriter, Miss Selina Albright as well. They're coming to Jazz Alley October 25th through the 28th. That's this Thursday through Sunday. Trust me, you don't want to miss this show. So be sure and get your tickets, and we'll look forward to seeing them here. And I'm K-Cee Deeva. This is RainierAvenueRadio.World, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Shoes to the shows, because it's not a sit down and listen kind of thing. Bring your dancing shoes. Gonna get funky up in there.
All right, you heard them. Dancing shoes. I'll have mine on.
Take care. It was a pleasure. We look forward to meeting you.
All right. I look forward to meeting you as well.
All right.
Thank you, Deeva.
Okay.
Good job.
Oh, I felt like that was rough. I just got thrown off by the beginning. My beginning was all sloppy, but I felt like we got in the groove because they were very like.
Oh, that was.
And I was like, oh God, am I giggling too much? But they were like laughing. It seemed like they were having a good time. I was like, okay.
In this particular instance, with her and her dad on the phone, they made it personable.
I felt that they did. So
they made it.
I tried to catch myself, and I was like, okay, tone it down. And then, but they were laughing and kind of, just let them.
And at the end, they said they look forward to meeting you, and I think that was pretty sincere. I think they ended up having a really good conversation.
Yeah, you think so? I hope so.
Mm-hmm. I think really he told some nice stories.
Yeah.
I don't think it was. I think it was a really good music and life show. At the end of the day, it's about the artist.
Right.
And that came through. He talked about things. He talked about his past. He talked about his views. He talked with his daughter.
Mm-hmm. I really like that she's like, remember Dad? And I was like, oh, this is like, that's so cool.
That was
I felt like they were comfortable, talking.
That was a really good interview, Carla.
Thank you.
A really good interview.
Thank you. Thank you. Cause I didn't feel. I was like, oh gosh.
So that's the thing. That's why you want to be prepared.
Right.
But at the end of the day,
you let them guide you.
That's where your talent comes in, and you want to be as prepared as possible. But you still always have to be able to go with the flow of what you're doing. That's where your talent comes. You don't want to rely on that. You don't want to be. Right. I'm never going to be prepared. I can just get on the mic. So that's why I think it was. Hello? Oh.
Are we live on Facebook or are we live on the air? No.